7 days before embarking on recording Revolver, the Beatles' most ambitious 12 inches of vinyl yet, Brian Epstein was dispatched to Memphis at the group's own request to assess the feasibility of recording at Stax Studios. In numerous interviews, the Beatles cited their love for Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Booker T and the MGs and many others who created their timeless records within the modest walls of Stax. The Stones had recorded in 1965 at both Chess in Chicago and RCA in Hollywood, securing a massive hit in the process with Can't Get No Satisfaction. Mick Jagger was reported to egg on the Beatles to follow suit and abandon EMI Studios for the US. In a leaked interview to the local Memphis newspaper, Estelle Axton, co-owner of Stax, confirmed Epstein's visit and 9th of April as the date set for the recordings. The report went on to state that the Beatles would cut one album and at least one single in the Stax studio. In charge of the sessions will be Jim Stewart, arranger Steve Cropper and Tom Dowd of Atlantic Records. Tom Dowd was an engineer and an innovator, building Atlantic's first stereo console and recording artists admired by the Beatles such as the Coasters, Ray Charles and Benny King. Tom finally got to meet the Beatles during an all-Memphis lineup tour, visiting the UK in 1967. Steve Cropper is a multi-talented guitarist, producer and arranger. In addition to being a key part of Booker T and the MGs, he played on practically every Stax recording of significance up to 1970. Also much admired by the Beatles, their 12-bar original outtake from Rubber Soul shared more than a passing nod to 1962's Green Onions. Cropper also got to meet the Beatles at the Bag of Nails, also in 1967, and later went on to play with John Lennon in LA on his rock and roll covers album. Press, TV and Beatlemaniacs soon converged upon Stax. The news spread quickly to the British media, with numerous reports speculating that the Beatles' next tracks would be recorded in the US. Epstein was spooked and concluded that Memphis was not adequately secure to host the Beatles for a prolonged stay. This even before Datebook had published the often misquoted "The Beatles are bigger than Jesus" article in the US. George Martin said that the main reason was mainly financial, as EMI would have had to pay 1.5% on the sale of every record to the American Federation of Musicians. Paul corroborated this in an interview with Disc and Music Echo in September 1966. We were going to record Revolver in America, but they wanted a fantastic amount of money to use the facilities there. We thought we'd forget it, because they were obviously trying to take us for a ride because we were the Beatles. We'd been thinking about going to record there for some time. It would have been for a certain sound, an American sound. George also confirmed that money had been the primary issue in a contemporaneous letter sent to Atlanta radio personality Paul Drew. The Beatles' romantic notions of Memphis, Tennessee were probably first implanted by Chuck Berry's B-side released in 1959. The Fab Four recorded his ode to the city 5 times for the BBC and also at their audition for Decca Records. The reality was that Stax had one cramped studio in a converted movie theatre surrounded by beer joints, beauticians and barbershops. In contrast, EMI had 3 studios, the largest capable of housing a 100-piece orchestra and massed choir simultaneously. Whilst working with Memphis musicians might have imbued even more funkiness into the Beatles' sound, especially on Got to Get You Into My Life, this may have been at a very damaging cost to Revolver and tracks recorded around that time. Over in Abbey Road, the Beatles had almost total freedom, with EMI allowing them unlimited time to experiment and record, resulting in ground-breaking techniques evident on Tomorrow Never Knows, Rain, and paperback writer. All four Beatles would go on to record individually in the US after 1970 with a host of US players, but sadly never in the studio at the same time.